I want to welcome everyone to SampleCon 2020. I think you're in for a treat. We actually did a lot more data. So this is a fewer memes, same amount of pictures, but a lot more data. So bear with me, all right? So let's do this thing. New picture. My name is Patrick Comer, the founder and CEO of Lucid. This was a shot that was made for Biz Magazine a couple of weeks ago, so finally I have a decent headshot that I can throw up there. So very happy about that. So this year we did something differently. In SampleCon Lucid States in the past, I've actually come up with a lot of content just myself. And this year I decided we're going to change the rules of engagement. And we did two things very differently. First, I went out and did interviews, IDIs, with some of you. You know who I'm talking about. We did Zoom one-on-one interviews to talk about where the industry was going. Because I felt that I wasn't as connected to on the ground every single day what's happening across the board. But also I thought it was a little bit too much hubris to say the state of the industry comes from Lucid or from Patrick. It comes from all of us. The second thing we did after we did those IDIs, those interviews with some of the SampleCon board and other key leaders, is we actually did a survey. I know, go figure. We did a survey of Lucid buyers. So these are all individuals who are every day buying sample from the Lucid platform to get a sense of what their views were on a ground level as to what was happening in the industry. So we have a combination of what industry leaders know, what some of the users know, and what we see from the data from a couple of years of Lucid. And away we go. So there are three main themes that came out of these conversations that people really wanted to understand. One was growth. How fast is programmatic growing? How fast are all these companies growing? How much runway is there for more growth in programmatic? Two would be quality and fraud. Now, I think everyone in this room understands that this was a hard year for fraud. I think no one would be mistaken that it was tough. But exactly how bad or good was it? And for the first time, we'll be showing some internal Lucid data on quality and fraud. And then third, and this is special for me, is everyone wants to understand where pricing is actually going. Now, I've been in the sample industry for getting on 20 years. And every year, there's the complaint that prices are going down, but no one knows exactly how much or why or where. It's just a common theme. Prices are going down. Lots of reasons to blame. Usually a competitor lowering prices is my favorite one. But essentially, every one of us has seen lower prices year over year for the past couple of decades. And we want to show, again, some internal Lucid data on what we think is actually occurring and where. Now, the purpose of this data and the charts is so that this deck will be made available to all of you and everyone playing at home so you can refer to it later. So if you don't get everything in a chart, don't worry, we'll provide it so you can refer to it and use it against us later. So here we go. State of growth. How fast are things going? Where are we growing? So this is just Lucid growth for the past 3 years, completes and GMV. GMV is a Lucid term or a marketplace term, means gross merchandise value. It's the total sum of sample bought and sold at Lucid for the year. And 2019 was $100 million, $101 million of GMV, and 56 million completes. Basically a double over the 2-year time frame. I'll just give you a sense of size of how much sample, how much volume we're talking about at Lucid. But let's dig in a little bit deeper. So we split these into two things, the LOI tier, length of interview, and the IR tier, the incidents. And these are big buckets. Lots of you can slice and dice in much lower numbers. But the two big things that came out is on the incidence rate, how fast high incident surveys are growing at Lucid. The 50% plus tier, from 50% incidents all the way up to 100%, is growing at twice the rate of everything else. So a lot of people are putting a lot of very easy to qualify for surveys into the Lucid environment. On the LOI, a slightly different story, a little more nuanced. You can look at this more closely later. But the key themes are that the high LOI, 21 minutes or plus, is growing slower. It used to be one of the highest performers back in early 2017. By now, it's dwindling down to third place. And by the end of this year, it'll probably be in last place, meaning that fewer and fewer longer surveys are being placed on the Lucid platform. And we think these are relatively good stories, easy to qualify for, and shorter. But as we know in our mind, that usually means pricing may be impacted, right? So let's continue to go down this road. But what do the buyers think? So we ask a fairly simple question. where do you think we are in programmatic? And what I like about this is most of them said developing. It's not like we're at the end of it somewhere and declining, or the leader, which means we're at the high water mark. The buyers as a group said, this is just getting started. So as they forecast over the next couple of years, they see a lot of growth in programmatic, which gives, of course, myself and our investors a lot of confidence. Another question, I like this one. What percentage of your business is done programmatically? And I love the bottom one. I'm not sure, right? But let's remove that in our mind for a second. Look what the rest of it says. Pretty aligned with where at the beginning. Most of them say somewhere between 10 and 50%, and there are a few who say 75% or more. So there's some buyers who are very deep into programmatic, but for most users on the Lucid platform, we'd say they're just getting started. This also gives me a lot of confidence because not only do they see a lot of growth, they also see that we're at the beginning of this evolution. So for Lucid has been doing this for 10 years now, because this is our 10th anniversary year. We actually celebrate in a month or so. It seems like we've been doing the slog for a long time, forever. And what this data starts to show is that there's a lot of growth in front of all of us. We can still invest in a fast-growing future. And then I ask, what's your forecast for your organization's growth over the next 2 years? Almost no one says decline. Almost everyone says 10 to 30% or 30% growth. So this class of buyers, and to be fair, they're not every buyer. These are the buyers that are already engaged with Lucid. All see their company's revenue growing at 10 to 30% or plus per year. So what does this mean? We're at the early stages of programmatic, that the buyers that are currently here says there's a lot of runway in front of us. This is exciting times for programmatic. This is an exciting time for those companies that have invested heavily in this technology because there's more to come. Quality and fraud, more Lucid data. So this is an internal slide we've been reticent to share, but we decided we're just going to go for it because Lucid often just shows data. This is a core, what we call board KPI. We show this to our board every single meeting. And this is the reconciliation rate. So at Lucid, reconciliation means the number of interviews that are rejected by the buyers after they've been completed. It's a very straightforward calculation. And we can see two big leaps up. Anyone remember 2017 with ghost completes and link fraud? Yeah? Leger, right? You're in the middle of it. I remember this, right? So link fraud was terrible, but in Q3 of 2017 was the first time we realized that there was a major fraud attack at Lucid around ghost completes. And over a 6-month period, we basically handled it, whereas 2018 was a slow year for fraud, thank goodness. But as we all know, in Q2 going into Q3 of this year, it came back, not as link fraud, but as outright manipulation via like survey farms and other types of fraud at a different kind of scale. And luckily, and through a lot of hard work from everyone in this room, we see a dramatic tail off starting in October. So much so that December of this year was our lowest reconciliation rate, say that 4 times, in 3 years. Now I'd like to say there was a silver bullet, that Lucid did some remarkable technology thing, but the reality is it was hard work by everyone here. The amount of hours slogged on integrations, fraud detection on the supply side, server-to-server integrations with buyers, all of the work required on a day-in, day-out basis to get a handle on securing all of the links coming in and out of Lucid and ensuring that the survey itself and the supply coming in was at maximum security possible. My prediction is this is even going to go lower for the first time because there's even more headroom at Lucid, right, Rick, to improve this number. You should feel very good about where it's going. And it's not surprising that in the past couple of weeks, there have been more and more announcements about proprietary technology that companies have built or technology available to all that are all about quality and fraud because the R&D investment was non-trivial. And people should be shouting about the efforts that they made because it mattered and it worked. But let's go a little bit deeper. How did it impact our buyers? So for all this Sturm und Drang, this angst that we had this summer over quality and fraud, for the most part, somewhat. I see this as a win. To what extent did sample fraud impact your business this year? Very little and somewhat was our top 2 boxes we'd like to say. I was expecting more to a great extent, and maybe it's because when people have a fraudulent survey and they freak out, as they should, we hear about it. But for the most part, we handled well. So congratulations, Sample Universe, you did good. Are you making new investments this year to combat sample fraud? I would have thought this yes would be overwhelming 50%. Does this mean buyers are just trusting us to take care of it? I think so. Does this mean there's an opportunity to sell fraud capabilities to those buyers? I think so, because they're not building their own investments. So I think this is an opportunity for everyone who wants to sell fraud capabilities or for the buyer themselves to trust and support you. Good work. Pricing. I think this is a trench in the middle of the ocean. Marianas Trench? What's the name of it? Anyone know off the top of their heads? Marianas Trench. This feels right? Deep into pricing. So we're about to show some pricing data. This is all Lucid data over the past 3 years about where pricing has gone. You may think our prices are high or low or somewhere in between, but this is the raw data. It's not been filtered in any way, shape, or form. So we started with the buyers, and we asked a very simple question. Which of these statements do you agree with? A little smaller read there, but the first two we've seen, how many times have buyers said, we're going to pay more for higher quality? And how often do they do that, really? I'm going to go with never. But it does say buyers will be forced to pay more for scarce sample. We're starting to see that more and more. To pay less will buyers accept smaller sample sizes. And pricing compression is felt mostly on easier work. So these are some opinions that buyers chose to go with. But let's look at some data. This is the average CPI at Lucid over 3 years. So it starts at like $2.18, $2.25, and ends at $1.87, $1.70, somewhere in there. It's basically a 5% decrease every year. But when we look at this, does this mean sample prices are actually going down? Because this is a broad basket of surveys. And we think back to some of those earlier graphs. If fast and easy surveys are growing at a rapid clip, we would expect the average price to go down. So let's slice this a little bit and see a little bit more about what's happening here. One, we're seeing conversion scale up at Lucid. As conversion increases, price goes down. So it's actually cross purposes with pricing. But especially in 2019, we went from a 7% average conversion all the way up to 8.5%. That's a monster change in the odds that a survey entrant is going to actually complete a survey. Now, a lot of you in the room on the supply side are like, yeah, we do 3-4 times that. Congratulations, you're way ahead of the game. This is the average conversion across the board. So if you're feeling good about your 30%, well, you should, because most suppliers are nowhere near that number. Here's another interesting tack. Respondent device type on entrants. In 2019 was the first time we saw the majority of entrants that show up at Lucid be coming from a mobile device, not PC. And you can see that crossover moment. And we can imagine that the pricing for a mobile device entrant is going to be different than on a PC. We see this trend continuing. I would not be surprised if by the end of next year, this year now 2020, it'd be closer to 70% of all survey entrants are from a mobile device versus PC. Dramatic change. People are like, where is the mobile research? It's already surpassed you. We're already all doing mobile research. Congratulations, we succeeded. Now let's cut this on incidence rate. So you'll see the change in CPI by IR tier. And again, 4 buckets of IR. We could do tinier slices, but they don't really show well on a graph, if you know what I mean. But the one thing that I saw that was really important was that top blue line. That is the 0 to 10% incidence. That was the only price that increased year over year. So prices to deliver low incidence work are increasing. And you can see the change with 0% being the January 17 prices across the board. And all of these 0 to 10%, the low IR prices are going up. Let's look at length of interview. Look at that blue line going down at a rapid clip. This is the other big learning. 0.1 to 0.5 minutes, 1 to 5 minutes in length. These surveys are shrinking rapidly in price. That's like a 25% decrease over 3 years. What's going on with low LOI surveys? Why are they so inexpensive so quickly? My thesis is that these surveys are actually really valuable to suppliers in ways that aren't just tied to the length of interview and the incidence. These are the surveys that every supplier needs to keep their users engaged. And so the value transaction between buyer and seller is different than all the other interviews, because these particular interviews actually have value to the supplier outside of the revenue they might receive for them. They create the first good experience that a new respondent might actually have. This is the lifeblood of suppliers, and they're willing to give and take a little bit more for this type of experience than for the longer ones. So this is what I think is going on. I think this will materialize more and more, is that there are really two markets starting to emerge in programmatic. You have the very easy and very short and very inexpensive piece of work that's growing very, very fast. That's one big pool of liquidity that everyone on the supply side can tackle. Then you have the other, which is what I'll call longer, harder, and more pricey. And we may see prices actually continue to either stabilize and or go up. And so these are two markets that are starting to stretch out. And we kind of see this in some of our buyers and suppliers who are targeting one or the other. We have some suppliers who focus readily on the low end of the market, the lower CPIs, and some that are more focused on the high end. Also on the buy side, we see people stretching between the two. It's the people that are stuck in the middle of pricing. They want to be in this middle area or do both really, really well. I think it's going to be a challenge for everyone. So we see this barbelling effect of CPIs, where the liquidity is pooling at the very high end and also at the very low end. Congratulations, you've made it through all my charts. All right, so what does this actually mean for where this whole thing is going? The future state, and thanks to marketing, realizing that it's MMXX, Jordan in the back, thank you for doing that. 2020, all right. So where are we all going? How does this growth continue? So we focus on every single screen being available for surveys. And this is something that we struggled with for years as an industry, talking about mobile and when we'll be mobile ready. And the fact of the matter is we're really way beyond that question being relevant anymore. But the key question comes now to every other screen that is available to this. What about Twitch? What about Alexa? All the other screens or methods of user engagement, and which suppliers are going to tap into that resource at scale? And are the buyers going to be ready to facilitate those transactions? Lucid saw 1 billion respondent sessions in 2019 and 2.1 billion over the past 3 years. That's a lot of potential survey completions. So if we can improve that conversion rate or increase the number of entrants, the amount of potential volume on the platform is there. On some level, we like to say we have plenty of capacity to grow. We also recognize that programmatic thinking has to expand beyond the supply chain. And for the suppliers in the room, congratulations, you're doing really, really well, because I'd say less than a quarter of all buyers are actually using an algorithm to do any purchasing whatsoever. Most of it's manual. They use an interface. They use a Lucid interface or someone else's interface to put in a sample order, they set a price, and they hope for the best. Once the buy side truly becomes programmatic, it'll start leading to even more growth. But buyers today tend to either want a rate card experience or a single one-off bid experience and let the price stay in one place. And that means that the supply side can take advantage of a large amount of arbitrage opportunities as they watch the buy side do nothing as they continue to get completes. I suggest that in 2020, not only will Lucid, but a lot of other companies will start providing buy-side algorithms in order to improve that experience as a way to increase their business. Because the buy side, again, is only about 25% programmatic compared to about 99% on the supply side within the Lucid environment. Also, as you know, data is royalty, not the Sussex kind of royalty, the better kind of royalty. 18 months ago is GDPR, as you know, CCPA in January just got started. We launched consent as standard in every single market starting in January. What that means is that Lucid now asks for respondent consent to market research on every session in every market across the globe as a default. Why did we make that choice? Because we believe that every market is going to go to some GDPR-like construct. And we want to be way ahead of the consent curve versus behind it. But we also think that our industry is way ahead, period, given the fact that we've spent so long living under what I'll say CASRO standards, now I guess Insights Association standards, SMR standards of data privacy, data security, anonymized data, and the rest. This is going to be very important because actually this is where our industry can start leapfrogging other industries that we partner and compete with, namely ad tech and martech, because our foundation around data is stronger than theirs is. We have a lot more room to maneuver. Another fun thing is wide adoption of programmatic marketplaces, private exchanges, all those words. This is the first year we saw it in the buy-side data where the number of announcements around marketplaces, exchanges was at an all-time high. And we think this is remarkable for the growth of our business. But it makes us wonder what we think a marketplace actually is. Besides learning how to spell it, what does it actually mean? And so for us, it's very simple. It means an open environment where both buyers and sellers can transparently and fairly do business. What it also means is that we've built an ecosystem around the marketplace that Lucid represents. And we see ourselves as the caretakers of that ecosystem. It's not good enough just to set it and forget it, where you just set up the process and actually not cultivate what's going on. And this is not the first experience the world has had with marketplaces. This has been going on for years, since the early times, a marketplace. Also, we've seen eBay Marketplace and Amazon Marketplace. And one of the key things that we learned in our investigation is that when a marketplace starts, the ratio between good actors and bad actors is mostly on the good actor side. And so it's easy to have high quality because most of the participants are trying to do the right thing. But as marketplaces grow, the bad actors grow with them, especially with the technology standpoint. So the benefit of programmatic also creates the benefit for the bad actors to be more active. And we definitely saw that in 2019. It also forced us to relook at our point of view. Lucid, headquartered in New Orleans, laissez-faire. What will be, right? That's not going to work anymore. So we've actually had to come down hard on standardizing our key approaches to how the market's supposed to operate. So we're doubling down on our marketplace experience, really looking into what it means to take care of a marketplace, not just build it. And it starts with safe and secure, what we call trust and safety at Lucid. This is a big growth area for us in terms of effort, in terms of R&D, in terms of time and energy. And if you ever wonder who's accountable for this at Lucid, his name is Rick Rogers in the front row here. Trust and safety means that we have standards for every supplier and every buyer that have to be lived up to across the board. And if any of those standards are not met by our supplier, there's an improvement period. We'll help you through it. But if you're not going to improve above the baseline, we will actually ask you to stop purchasing or selling at Lucid. And so there are over 30 entities on the buy and supply side that we asked to leave the marketplace in 2019 alone because they would not live up to the minimum standards of buying and selling. And it was a big deal for us because we like to grow, we like to make friends, and for us to say you're no longer welcome was not the easiest thing to do. But what we found is that those suppliers and those buyers that were on the edge, when we told them about this future opportunity to no longer be with us, they changed. They actually improved their supply quality. They improved their buyer quality so that the overall inventory at Lucid increases. Because we understand that in order for our ecosystem to grow, every participant has to believe and trust in the quality of the survey inventory or the supply chain before they even step foot into the market. So we've had to flex our muscles, and this has not been easy for us. It's been a sea change, a tone change within Lucid, where we say, you must do this. Even last week, a partner of ours came into our office and said, we're concerned about the quality program. Can we not participate? And we knew what we had to say. Every supplier at Lucid has to participate openly in the quality program as default. In the same way that every single buyer has to hit a minimum threshold of earnings per click, for those who track that. Every single buyer has to be known within the platform. You can't hide behind other thresholds of names. Every buyer has to be transparent. And for years, we had some exceptions. And this was the year we had to say, no more exceptions. The rules are the rules. Engage with them. And it's been hard for us. It's not the easiest approach, but I believe it's been fundamentally good for Lucid and fundamentally good for the ecosystem that we caretake. Constant improvement. Like with reconciliation or conversion or earnings per click or any of these core metrics, there's rarely a silver bullet. Sometimes you can get big leaps up with an AI bit of work or the next technology move. But most of the time, it's day in and day out what I'll call grind. You have to work at it every day. And what Lucid is dedicated to is doing that work. We don't expect there to be a single technology solution that's going to improve everything overnight, but we're dedicated to improving all parts of our ecosystem all the time. So with that, we have some announcements to make. We also started to think about how we partner very differently. And we specifically went out to supplier partners who have technology that they provide to third parties to help them grow. This could be a panel technology, a yield management technology, a way for one of our suppliers to bring on new partners through technology, and we can all scale together. And we call this our Lucid Partner Programs. So we've built 5 different integrations and partnerships that we'll be announcing today. We welcome anyone else who wants to become a Lucid partner on the buy or sell side to engage with us. But we look at more and more of our growth not coming from someone necessarily being a direct Lucid customer, but through our partners specifically. So please be very happy about these 5 names. I see Jonathan's in the room for QME. Who else is in the room from anyone here? Vetri. Yes, Vetri, welcome. Anyone else? Madai. Thank you for being here today. So we've spent a lot of time and energy over the past weeks and months and quarters to build these relationships that are technology generated, that are helping scale the entire ecosystem. And I would love for them to be able to, you want to run up here and tell it what it is? We got time. You're welcome, Jonathan. Come on, you first. Jonathan Knight, everyone. Say hello.
Hi. So QME has got, I'll talk into that.
Yeah,
that's
right
much
here.
better.
We're
nice.
really close.
Yeah.
We're friends.
So QME is making bits of our core technology available to outside partners. That's our yield management, panel management technology that really drives tremendously better earnings per click for everyone, and also some of our fraud detection systems. This is lovely, isn't it?
I know, you didn't know you loved each other so much, right?
Our fraud detection system is also going to be available to people, both of those through APIs or further integrations. So.
All right, to the rescue. All right.
And I'm done now. So
Yeah. Jonathan Knight, everyone. Carlos, you want to come up? Say hello.
Hello, everyone. So the Vetri Foundation, we're a not-for-profit. What the goal is to give users data sovereignty, data power. So that means that users are able to store their data inside this mobile device. It's a decentralized application, and with that data, you can actually use for targeting. 90% of all the payout goes to them. We want to make it as the most valuable platform for survey taking, and we're happy to be part of Lucid.
Glad you're here too, man. You can get close too.
Yeah.
Hello. Friends. All right, come on up. Mr. Andrew.
Cheers, thank you.
Absolutely.
Madai is a technology that assists businesses in connecting their traffic. Currently it's with publishers into the Lucid ecosystem by managing their rewards, their user, essentially we consider it a conduit between their traffic and the Lucid ecosystem. We have phenomenal conversion, we have a 0% reconciliation rate, and we're just very happy to be a part of this program and watching the Lucid ecosystem grow.
All right. Congratulations. Thank you. I'll end with this. Simple congratulations to everyone in the room. The amount of effort that we all spent over the past 6 months to combat fraud within all of our platforms together was unquestionably the most important thing we did all last year. And I want to say thank you from a Lucid perspective for all the hard work. I also want to thank everyone in the room who saw us flex. I would flex, but I don't have those muscles. Who saw us flex and change our tone over the past 6 to 9 months about trust and safety. These conversations weren't always so easy, but all of them are very important so that the overall ecosystem could remain more healthy and grow with us. So with that, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your time and attention. And let's have a great SampleCon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.